Charter Local Edition with your host, Dana Cowley.
Welcome to Charter Local Edition from the Capitol Building in Helena, Montana. Today, my guest is Representative Tom Woods. He's from House District 62, which is in Southeast Bozeman. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you being here.
My pleasure.
So how is this legislative session treating you so far?
Well, it sure helps to be coming back for my third term. This is a very difficult
Kind of know
job.
what you're doing now?
Well, at this point, I'm the expert. After 3 terms, you're the expert.
Is that scary?
It is very scary for me, at any rate. But this is what term limits have done. So.
Well, tell us a little bit about what you're working on and what you hope to accomplish when the day is done.
Sure. For the last couple terms, I've been trying to do some work on utility regulation. Case in point, just passed a bill yesterday off the floor, which would change the way that Northwestern Energy is allowed to recoup some of their costs from consumers. You see, when Northwestern Energy originally started working here in Montana, they were only poles and wires, basically just electricity distribution.
Just infrastructure.
Just infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
And so a law was written, or a whole chapter of code was written, such that they were not accountable for when the power went out. So if the generating station went down, it wasn't their generating station. And so the costs that they incurred for buying replacement power, they could go around the Public Service Commission and put that directly onto our bills. So that's the way the law was written, and there was a reason for it. But that was 25 years ago. Now, Northwestern Energy owns lots of power generation, but that law is still in place. And so when their generation stations go down, well, we have to pay for that. It goes right around the Public Service Commission and onto our bills. Now, the other part of that is that in Chapter 8, what is defined as a power outage is very broad. And so what we have found out over the last couple of years is that some pretty surprising things and expensive things like administrative costs, planning costs, have been defined as outage costs, and so have gone around the Public Service Commission and onto your bills. So that passed off the floor yesterday. What this bill says is that we're going to treat Northwestern Energy exactly like we treat the other utilities. They won't be able to do that any longer. So I'm very excited. I've never been able to get that bill out of committee, but now it's across the floor and to the Senate. And so I would say that's progress.
Well, the big seller on that to the general public is the impact it would have on their bill.
That's
exactly
right.
For your average ratepayer, what kind of reduction could they expect to see from this?
Boy, I don't have an exact figure, but the amount of money that I think has been moved around the Public Service Commission and onto your bills is in the millions of dollars. So I'm pleased about that. We'll see how it does in the Senate, but I just can't think of a good reason to vote against this bill.
And then what else are you working on?
Well, I've got a really ambitious piece of legislation. And it has about as much chance of passing as me being governor of Wyoming. But what it does is...
It'll be like Wyoming. No, I'm just kidding.
I think we need to recognize that the major problem with healthcare is cost. It just costs so
Particularly
much.
in those final years.
Particularly in the final years and in the early years. My son just had an appendectomy. He didn't even spend the night in the hospital. It was $14,000. $14,000 for 10 hours worth of work. Hospital costs are outrageous. It's thousands of dollars, just for the room. And the intensive care units nowadays are running into tens of thousands of dollars per night. But I think we all need to recognize that hospitals have monopoly power. If I walk out in the street and I get hit by a bus, I do not get to choose what ambulance picks me up. I don't get to choose what emergency room I go to, and I can't shop for the best surgeon once I'm there. So recognizing that, the bill that I've written defines public hospitals as utilities. And basically what that will make them do is adhere to a particular rate. And the rates that I've written into the bill are based on Medicare rates. So if you're a private hospital, you'd be allowed to charge 150% of Medicare rates. If you're a nonprofit, and I use that term with some cynicism, nonprofit hospitals, you would only be able to charge 138% of Medicare rates. So basically, though, it would force the hospitals to say, look, here's what we're going to charge for these particular procedures. And Medicare does that. It has all of the procedures coded and costed out. So it's ambitious, but I think it's very necessary.
Well, you have some knowledge in this area. Your wife serves as a family doctor, and
That's correct.
you also went through a pre-med program and was accepted into medical school.
Sure.
Is this an idea that comes from the medical community? Is this popular with what other doctors think should be happening?
Well, what a lot of doctors are frustrated with is that they recognize that hospitals have monopoly power, and that hospitals have been buying up private practices left and right for the past 10 years.
Oh, yes.
And so
it's an aggressive trend.
It is quite a trend. And so I think many physicians are on board with the idea that, hey, we have to do something. Now, the other part of physicians getting on board with this is there is some frustration on the differential in pay between the physicians who work in the hospital and the CEOs who run the hospital.
Oh, yes.
At one hospital, not terribly far from here, the CEO is making over $800,000 a year.
Oh.
Whereas a physician, my wife, well, I shouldn't talk about my wife's salary, but, most family docs make between 100 and 150.
Oh. Well, and then I remember when to be a CEO of a hospital, you were an experienced doctor. And now many CEOs don't have a background in medicine at all. They're more of a business money person.
Right. And I think that that's an important thing to recognize, that, hospitals have drifted away, and all of healthcare has drifted away from being a service to being a commodity to be bought and sold. And we've imposed this corporate money-making model on something that is, some people would say a human right, but basically should not be in the market. It's something you need, not something you want.
I think for the most part, unless you're going in for the nippy-tucky, is absolutely true.
I'll take your word for it.
All right. Representative Tom Woods, thank you so much for
My
joining
pleasure.
us. We appreciate it. We wish you the best of luck with your efforts here in the legislature. And we thank you for watching. This is Charter Local Edition. I'm Dana Cowley.
Charter Local Edition has been an exclusive presentation of Charter Communications. View all episodes at localeditiononline.com.